Before we dive into the truth about cancer being metabolic and not genetic, Dr. Seyfried, what are the lifestyle behaviors that contribute to cancer growth? Meaning, do these things if you want to get cancer?
Yeah, right. We would, yeah, that it sounds like a crazy, crazy question. Why would anyone want to do anything that would enhance their chances to have a group of cells in some organ of their body growing out of control with a potential to kill them? Right. This is the so and these are the things that you would do if you wanted to do that. And when you find out what you need to do to get a lethal cancer, you might want to try to avoid those
Yeah.
things. Right? Makes
Yep.
sense. So if you know what you need to do to get cancer, then you might want to consider avoiding those things. And when you realize that what you have to avoid will require a massive change in diet and lifestyle, uh, then you say, well, I don't want to do that. Therefore, that must mean you would like to have cancer,
Mm,
right? You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
All right. So, as I said, um, what you need to do, and it's never one thing, it's probably the whole package. You got to have the whole package here. As I said, don't exercise. Avoid it. Avoid any kind of exercise. Um, the couch potato mentality becomes the dominant way of looking at your life. As I said, never take stairs, always take the elevator. Never leave the car in a fast food place. God forbid you leave the car and walk in and pick something up. You must sit in the car so they can hand it through you the window. Never exercise, never run, never walk, never lift weights. Um, what you call just shuffle around if you have to get somewhere. The most minimal level of exercise will put you at risk for cancer. Um, the worst kind of foods, you have to eat large amounts of highly processed foods, things that can live in a package, like these Hostess Twinkies that I have here. I used them in my class as props. I bought these in 2010
Wow.
when they said Hostess was going out of
Wow.
business.
Look what they
So I
look
bought
like you
these. They
just
look brand
bought
new.
them.
They look brand new. They're a little stale, but a mouse broke in and ate one not long ago. And if you look at the box, they have a list of ingredients. You need a degree of some
Oh my
sort to
gosh.
figure out the chemicals that are in this delicious. Eat a lot of these. Got to eat these like 3 or 4 times a day, or similar kinds of things that can remain in the package for decades. Um, as I said, avoid any fresh foods. Never eat anything that's organically grown, whether it's a vegetable, organic, grass-fed, free-range chickens, grass-fed. Avoid that. Always eat the most highly processed foods and eat a lot of it too. Don't just nibble on it. Engorge yourself with this kind of thing. While you're not exercising, you have to eat massive amounts of highly processed foods that have incredibly long shelf lives. Um, Make sure you have a lot of emotional stress in your life.
Mm,
Always be freaked out about everything. Everything that you hear gets you angry and upset, no matter what it is. You got to have a lot of emotional stress, a lot of anger, while you're eating the highly processed foods and not exercising. And if you can smoke, if you can, chew tobacco or smoke it, really good, really good. That'll while you're chowing down on a Twinkie. These are the kinds of things. Make sure you don't sleep well at night. God forbid you get a good night's sleep. No, no, no. You must be awoken several times with anger and bitterness or emotional stress. This is helpful to get cancer. And make sure you don't enjoy life. Make sure you have no happiness in your life. So you put all these things together, and there's a real good chance that you can get cancer.
mm.
So when you hear what I said to get cancer, you would do the opposite to try to avoid cancer. But when you realize that many of the things that I've mentioned, people are already doing, they're not exercising, they're freaked out, they're under stress, they're not getting good sleep, and then they wake up and they go, "We have an obesity epidemic, which is linked to type 2 diabetes, And obesity and systemic inflammation and diabetes puts you at risk for cancer. So if you're eating a lot of highly processed foods and not exercising, you can put the risk of getting diabetes and obesity. So you put it all together, and cancer is exploding in our societies, predominantly for the reasons that I just articulated. And if people really were fearful of what I just said and said, "Whoa, I got to do something different," or did they not know this? Did they? Is this the first time they ever heard what I just said? A lot of them know this. People still smoke. Well, I'm not the one that's going to get the lung cancer. No, but you could get emphysema and a heart attack. That'll kill you also.
Yeah.
But I think it's our diet and lifestyle that put us at risk um, for cancer, predominantly diet and lifestyle. And this is exploding over the last 50 years because we're getting more and more international foods that are what we call the global food distribution across the planet. Um, More and more highly processed foods are appearing on shelves. Everything got to have a lot of carbs too. Make sure the foods, if you want cancer, you got to have a lot of carbohydrate in that food, a lot of chemicals too. God forbid anything is natural. So you eat a lot of that stuff. Don't exercise, smoke a lot, horrible night's sleep, and we'll be very surprised if you don't get cancer. But every now and then you get people who absolutely abuse themselves for decades. They smoke cigarettes, they don't exercise, they eat the worst foods, and they're always like happy. They're not so unhappy sometimes. So I think you have to put all those together in a package.
If you want to learn how to implement the ketogenic diet and the Press Pulse protocol into your cancer management, just visit school.com/keto for cancer, the new community by our research analyst Johnny Rockermeyer. Within this new community platform, you can connect with other patients and learn from their experiences. You can also just search through the posts other members have already made. You will have access to our classroom section as well, which provides practical advice and tools for the best results. These sections cover all parts of the Press Pulse protocol that you should implement. Starting with the general scientific concepts by Dr. Thomas Seyfried, we will show you how to start the ketogenic diet, including which foods to choose and which to avoid. Additionally, we prepared a list of doctors specialized in metabolic therapy, as well as details about glutamine inhibition and hyperbaric oxygen protocols. So, take a look around at school.com/keto for cancer.
And what was killing most folks at that time, and we know this from looking at Aboriginal folks that are on the planet today, was mostly injuries and infections. So in our Paleolithic ancestors would mostly die from injuries and infections. They didn't have orthopedic surgeons to fix hips and broken bones and this kind of thing. We didn't have antibiotics. So you had to rely on the power of your own immune system and your ability to continue to hunt and walk with a broken limb or a broken hip. And it couldn't have been easy. And eventually your body gets worn down from the stress of the living. But we've evolved. We've eliminated a lot of these kinds of health issues. We have tremendous ability to enhance our immune system with antibiotics to prevent infections. And how many people are walking? I had a hip replacement. It's unbelievable. You feel good. You can walk. Your exercise goes way up. You're not pained every time you have to do something. So clearly, those are major advances in our medical technology. But at the same time, we have allowed chronic diseases to replace these acute problems of infections and injuries. And now we die slowly from dementia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes. I mean, all of these just wear your body down. But getting back to your question about how hard it is to get cancer, there's an interesting study that was published maybe 30 years ago on monkeys, the macaque monkey, where they took a chemical tar, with a carcinogenic tar, and rubbed it on the skin of the monkey for 10 years because they wanted to develop tumors in monkeys because monkeys are genetically more similar to us. Because they wanted to develop tumors in monkeys and they took these macaque monkeys and they rubbed tar on their arms and no tumor. And then finally they started to inject the chemical carcinogens into the monkeys. So, and for 10 years, they had like in this 60 or 70 monkey group, they had like one monkey that had some minor lymphoma. So they canceled the project, saying monkeys are not a good model for cancer. Now, what they failed to do in that experiment was to feed the monkeys Twinkies every day, and put them and have a lion or a tiger walk around the
Stress
cage
them
3
out.
times a day,
Yeah.
put the fear of God into them, do all the kinds of things that would give them emotional stress, nutrition stress. Don't let them sleep well at night. Do all the things that I just said. They didn't do that. So you're 100% correct. How hard it is for us to get cancer. You really have to abuse your body something fierce for decades. And people think, I'm getting a lot of exercise and I still got cancer. Yeah, but what about all the other things that you're subjected to? And we're saying it's not one thing. It's like the package.
Yeah.
The whole package puts you at risk. But even doing a lot of exercise will reduce the risk. All of these things, you don't smoke, you reduce risk. You enjoy life, you reduce risk. You have stress management, you reduce risk. So again, you look at this, but there's a linkage now between obesity and cancer. The more obese, the more likely you're going to be cancer. But that's because your body is inflamed. Inflammation damages mitochondria. As I said, it's very difficult to get cancer when your mitochondria in your body remain healthy. They are the controllers of our destiny. The health of the mitochondria in our body determine how long you will live and the level of quality of life that you will have as the result of this organelle that exists in almost all cells except erythrocytes. So yeah, I mean, if you want to abuse your body, I don't know, seed oils, take anything you want to jam it, chug on it. It's just with all the other things. But most people don't want to do that, right? But yet they do it, but they don't want to do it. So, and I'm not the one to tell people what to do or what not to do in anything. I mean, let them do it. I'm just saying what causes the risk factors that will cause dysregulated cell growth in a population of cells in a particular organ of your body.
Yeah, you're giving us the information and we decide what we want to do with it. It is interesting how you said earlier that people know that smoking cigarettes, for example, or chewing tobacco is not healthy for them, but they think that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the one to get cancer. What do you think that is? I have a thought behind this that people they're sedentary, they eat the processed foods, they eat the junk food, they smoke, they have bad lifestyle behaviors. I think that when you lack a purpose and lack goals in your life, there's a void that you feel. This was my life for 20 years. There's a void you feel with these dopamine producing activities, and you're not thinking about the long term. You're thinking about how I could fill this void and get some dopamine hits right now. Do you think a part of that's going on? People just lack goals, they lack community, and they're just filling this void with these habits?
I don't know. I can't address that. Don't forget our research is on the biochemical mechanisms by which dysregulated cell growth happens at the biochemical level. Whether human behavior will change. I mean, you can go on for hours and look at every kind of and not have a clear controlled experiment to test any one of these kinds of things. But there's enough circumstantial evidence in the scientific literature to know what puts you at risk and doesn't. That what I'm confronted with since many folks, not all, of course, don't really care about prevention, like you said. After I get the problem, what can you do for me at that point? Yes, I know I should have been a better person. I shouldn't have avoided these things, but I didn't, and I got this. So that's where our research comes in. Okay. You have this dysregulated cell growth. Now, how do we manage it without toxicity? How can we control or restrict the ability of that group of cells to not get out of control and kill you? Our research doesn't say we kill cancer at all. What we say is we can manage it, and if it never returns for decades and you die from something other than cancer, then only then can you say you were. But a lot of people don't know that. Well, I'm sorry. That cannot be guaranteed by the medical establishment either.
Right.
When they say, "Oh, yeah, your 5-year survival, 5.5 years that you get another kind of tumor or something." Well, what's going on with that? So, yeah, I think, let's put it this way. How long can I live on the planet with a higher quality of life than I had before? And even though I know I have this, and it's up to you. Once you know what to do and how to do it, you can reduce the risk. Everything is risk management. So how do I reduce risks? And even if you have the every time I go, it never goes away. It's still there, and it's just, they try to cut it out. It came back, but it never really still kind of indolent.
Mhm.
Well, good. Keep it indolent. That's what you want.
Mm. I wanted to get into your research and some of Otto Warburg's research on cancer as a metabolic disease versus a genetic issue. I think still, and you could let me know if you disagree, but if I went out into the streets of Miami here and I walked around South Beach and I surveyed, I like went up to 100 people and asked them, "Hey, cancer. Let me ask you a question about cancer. Do you believe cancer is a genetic disease? Do you believe that either you have bad luck, good luck, but it's all due to genetics?" I would guess that maybe 90 out of 100
Mhm.
people would say, yeah, it's genetics, bad luck, nothing you can do about it. Would you say
Mhm.
that's a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the young girls from high school, Grace, she did a video just
She
that.
did. That's right.
Yeah, right. She did ask the same questions in the street. I don't know if it was I know it was Texas, I think, somewhere down there, and just about everybody thought it was genetic. And if you go down to the big cancer hospitals, Moffitt in Florida, you can go to MD Anderson, you can go to Sloan Kettering, you go to Dana Farber down here, the Fred Hutch. No matter where you go, and you walk into the oncology. Oh yeah, cancer is definitely
Mm,
genetic. They say it on the national NCI website. Cancer is 100 different diseases, all genetically. This is
wow.
such nonsense. They have no clue, do they? I don't know if they read the scientific literature, understand it, or just deny it. Uh, I mean, let's look at it. Look at it. This is what we have found, and we have published, and it's already published in the scientific literature by many, many scientists. There are cancers that have no mutations. All right. How do you explain that? Well, first of all, the somatic mutation theory of cancer says that all cancers come from genetic mutations acquired in your life in the nucleus of the cell. And those mutations lead to cause dysregulated cell growth, which is cancer. Cancer is cell division out of control, dysregulated cell growth caused by mutations in certain genes of the nucleus of the cell. That's the somatic mutation theory of cancer. Dysregulated cell growth caused by nuclear gene mutations acquired in your lifetime, in your life. This is different from germline inherited mutations. So somatic mutations are acquired. Okay, great. So Michael Stratton and his group from England, they did a massively comprehensive analysis on breast cancer, and they found about 30% of breast tumors had no mutations, whereas other breast tumors, some massive thousands and thousands of mutations in some breast tumors, but in some of them there were no mutations. So in the paper, it says cancer is a genetic disease caused by mutations. And then they show we have some cancers that have no mutations. How do you think the authors of that paper address that? They ignore it. It's not part. How could you state one thing
Right.
and have evidence not supporting it? And this has been found in certain ependymoblastomas of children. They can't find mutations in certain kinds of cancers. It doesn't happen often. I want to be clear about that. There are not many cancers where there are no mutations. But the fact that you could find one or a few says there's got to be something else going on here.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Then we found over as the genome, we spent billions of dollars on the so-called Cancer Genome Atlas, supported by the National Cancer Institutes, the pharmaceutical industries, all of the players that want to get involved with this. So the idea was we're going to sequence every mutation found in every kind of a cancer, and we're going to then make targeted drug therapies to target these mutations. Well, first of all, we started to find tens of millions of mutations, like they're everywhere. So we had to parse. The field had to parse. They all can't be bad because we can never target 100,000 mutations or more to help one cancer patient. Every cell in the tumor has a different pattern of mutations. They're all different from each other. One tumor in this person has different mutations than the same tumor in another person, and even within this person, every cell in that tumor has different kinds of
Wow.
mutations. This is what we see. So the field then said, well, this is problem. This is a real problem. But we should then define that there are only some kinds of mutations that are really the bad ones, leading to the dysregulated cell growth. These are called driver mutations. Okay, so we have driver mutations that are the bad ones, and we have passengers that kind of just are mutated, but they don't seem to do anything. So we separate and we have hills and valleys and all kinds of different parts of mutations and all this kind of stuff. But now with the new findings, we're now with deep sequencing. They said, well, let's look at normal tissues and normal people that never get cancer. So we took the field scientists that are published in top journals. As we speak, they're coming out all the time. We're finding thousands of driver gene mutations in tissues of normal, healthy guys that never get cancer. So how do you explain that? You just told us that the passengers don't do anything, and the drivers are the ones that cause dysregulated cell growth. And now we find drivers in normal people never get cancer. This is nuts. So, and we have tumor suppressor genes, and then we have oncogenes, and all of these kinds of genes are found in normal people that don't get cancer. So, how do you now all of a sudden see that? And then, and no, it's there. It's there. But I know it's a problem. It's a problem. But we don't have an answer yet. We don't have an answer yet. You ever think the theory is wrong? That's the answer.
Right. Spot on.
Spot on. You're looking the theory is wrong. Get over it. So then I took out of the literature all the nuclear mitochondrial transfer experiments, which were that's the nail in the coffin for this whole thing. When you take a nucleus out of a tumor cell loaded with all the drivers and oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes, and you put it into a new cytoplasm of a cell that doesn't have cancer. Now you take that cell and put it into the rat, you don't get any tumors. On the other hand, if I take the nucleus, the normal healthy nucleus out of a normal cell and put it into the cytoplasm of a rat tumor and put it under, boom, you get a tumor.
Yeah.
So clearly it was not the nucleus calling the shots, it's the mitochondria in the cytoplasm. And how do we know it's the mitochondria? Because the Chinese did some beautiful experiments where they took normal mitochondria and put them into glioma cells and shut off the oncogenes and turned off all the genetic the power, right? So why oncogenes are facilitators of a fermentation metabolism to replace the damaged mitochondria. So once you know it's the mitochondria, they're calling the shots on this whole thing. Then the NCI is wrong. The National Cancer Institute is flat out wrong, and they did in 1984. They invited the pharmaceutical companies into the labs because the progress to the cure was going too slow. So they figured if we brought the pharmaceuticals into the labs, the cure would come faster. How's that working out for us? We have 1,700 people a day dying from cancer in the United States. Wow. It's 70 an hour, right? 70 people an hour. Over 611,000 people are dying every year from cancer. So in 1984, they brought the pharmaceutical companies into the labs. And it says right on the NCI website, National Cancer Institute website, progress not work, we're bringing the pharmaceutical companies. So we're spending a fortune on cancer drugs, immunotherapies, all this crazy stuff based on the somatic mutation theory. Yes, there are folks out there that are living and have survived, every now and then the blind squirrel finds the nut, and you get some people that are doing really, really well. See, you're going to do really well. But we got 1,700 people a day dying that aren't doing so well. And some of these immunotherapies that are targeting genes, okay, get a load of this. They have a tumor. Oh, it has mutations, and our immune system can't kill because there's some mutations. So we want our immune system to kill. So we put these immunotherapies on there. But don't forget, some normal cells have those same problems. So those immunotherapies can blow out your liver and kidney. And that's called hyper-progressive disease. Oh, but that's the price we have to pay to help a few people. That's nuts. The whole thing here, you're working on the wrong theory, guys. And once you abandon the somatic mutation theory and recognize that it's a mitochondrial metabolic disease, then you're going to see the big drop, and then you're going to see the drop in death. That's when you're going to see the drop in death. That's just like the AIDS. When we use the AIDS cocktail, the HIV cocktail, dead people drop way down because they were working on the right mechanism of controlling that. Right now, I mean, you hear advertised at night on television, Opdivo and Keytruda, a chance to live longer and also a chance to die sooner. They don't talk about it. But they actually do. They don't lie. They spend more time telling you how the drug is going to kill you than how it's going to give you the chance to live longer. They're not hiding anything. But no, and they always show smiling faces.
Sure.
guys in a canoe riding a
Yeah.
bike or something like. They'll show you sitting on a toilet,
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
you know, your eyeballs, blood coming out of your
Oh
mouth.
my
I mean,
gosh.
all this kind of stuff. Nobody would buy it then, right? Nobody would go,
They're explaining the side effects, but they're like to your point, they're showing somebody happy in a
yeah,
canoe.
showing a
Yeah.
happy guy, and this guy is going to have massive diarrhea, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, and he's riding a bike smiling.
Right. I noticed
You
that
don't
too.
show him running into the John after he rides the bike, you know.
You know,
you know, but the problem is these poor folks. They go down to the oncologists at the top medical schools thinking they know what they're talking about. And when you talk to them about cancer as a metabolic disease, oh, there's no evidence to support that.
yeah.
Oh, did you read the science? No, I don't have to read the
Mm.
scientific literature. If it were right, I would have heard about it. So that's called confirmation bias.
Yeah.
So the field just does what everybody else does mindlessly, and it has to be right because the NCI says it's right. The drug companies say it's right. Television advertisements can't be wrong. So and then you have this problem, and everybody wakes up and they say before it's, I get dozens and dozens of emails from all these cancer patients where everything that they've given them, CAR T immunotherapies, they've given them this, they've given them that, and now they're still suffering from cancer and it's out of control, it's spreading through their body. And now their bodies are so brutalized by poisonous chemicals and radiation and surgical mutilations, they can't rally their body any longer, and they die. So this is tragedy. As I said in many of these, this will eventually be recognized as the single greatest tragedy in the history of medicine, using medieval tools to make people healthy, poison and irradiating them and doing all those crazy kind of stuff. And people fear when they get diagnosed with cancer, they fear having their hair fall out, their gums bleeding, sitting on the toilet. They have this impending doom that I have to go through this miserable torture only to end up dead. And then the problem is many do survive. Like you said, the body was brutalized, and yet no matter what you did to this guy, he's still alive. But they pay us, many, not all, many people pay a significant price for their survival.
Yeah.
They have neuropsychiatric problems, hormonal problems, bone density problems, all kinds of other problems that came for the fact that you were poisoned and irradiated and brutalized by a system. You didn't get out of this free. And your quality of life can be impacted significantly as the result of being a cancer survivor. Survivor of what? My God, what they did to these poor folks. But metabolic therapy is coming. You either join it or you get out of the way because it's coming and people want it. And once we have, where's the evidence? Well, Maggie and Brad Jones are building a documentary with the evidence. We're publishing papers with the evidence. More and more people are surviving. Does it? I mean, no, it doesn't. But it certainly gives an opportunity for people to live longer. But they have to shoulder, like you said at the beginning, you have to shoulder a significant amount of that burden. Now you're the one. You're responsible for your destiny. If you're not adherent to the metabolic approach, then you don't have anybody to blame but yourself. So, but again, it requires discipline. But you're in charge. That's why we built the glucose ketone index calculator to allow people to know whether they're in nutritional ketosis. And then when you're in that nutritional ketosis based on your own biology, your own blood, then you can bring in the non-toxic drugs to work on the glutamine problem. So we have it all. We have it pretty well outlined. It just has to be put into practice in the major clinics, and that's not happening anytime soon because they think it's a genetic disease. So why even talk about what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I want to talk more about the metabolic, the mitochondria and what's happening here at the mitochondrial level, and then a little bit more about the glucose and ketone index that you talk about. Before we get there, I want to take a quick break from the video you're watching to share something with you that has made a big difference with my health and the thousands and thousands of students that I teach all across the world. Now, this is a unique device that has been shown to help with skin health, sore muscles, wrinkles, psoriasis, eczema, scoliosis, migraines, sleep issues, arthritis, acne, scar tissue, wound healing, relaxation, and also boost testosterone levels. It's red light therapy. Turn it on, and as you can see, I just leave it there on my desk as I work. 10, 20 minutes per day will suffice. Then head over to bondcharge.com/ketocamp and use the coupon code KETOCAMP to get 15% off your red light device. So whether it's these Bond Charge blue light blocking glasses, their sauna blanket, or any of their awesome products, use that coupon code KETOCAMP at checkout. We'll drop a link down below. Go check them out. They are awesome. And let's get back to today's video. One of the things I've noticed over the last few years is when I have somebody that's close to me that has been diagnosed with cancer, I see that they're going down that route of a genetic thing, conventional treatments, and I do my best to open up dialogue and have conversations and maybe share some of your research. Dr. Nasha Winters is a good friend of mine, some of her research. But the individual with the cancer, they're living in fear because they just got this diagnosis. Their doctor is telling them that, doing ketosis and fasting, that doesn't work. Like you said, this is all theory. There's no research to back it up. They don't know about the research. And most of the time, the message that I share with them, the podcast, the book, whatever it is, it just falls on deaf ears. And I've lost a few people that went down the route of conventional therapy and eventually lost their life. How do we overcome that? How do we have better conversations with people to get this information to them?
Well, that's the gradual transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. You're training in medical schools. All of the physicians are trained that cancer is a genetic disease. Their first biochemistry classes say it's a genetic disease.
Wow.
And then those who go into oncology learn how to wield the power of poison and radiation and to try to kill tumor without killing the patient. So it's not so much how effective it is against the tumor; it's how you're not going to try to kill your patient with using a dosage that's too high. So they're trained on that, and the surgeons, of course, show me something, I'll cut it out. But they're just there. Oh, we have to cut this guy's tumor out. Let's run him in. What we do with metabolic therapy, you have an opportunity to shrink the hell out of that tumor, and then the surgeon. We're not against. In fact, we're not against any part of standard of care. We just want to use those tools in the correct way. The problem with the guys in the medical schools and the oncology, they just don't know. Number one, they have no clue about the biology of what they're doing. Not because they're dumb or stupid. They're very smart people. They just have not been given the training to understand what the nature of the problem is. So it's not, that, and they make a good lifestyle of doing what they do. So is there any motivation to want to change what you do?
Right.
But so the training is not there. They don't recognize that cancer is a metabolic disease, and that has to change. Once you start changing, once you understand the science that's driving the dysregulated cell growth, why the tumors are growing out of control in the first place, and where they get their energy and fuel to do this stuff, then you know what to target them, how to target. But they don't get any of that.
Yeah.
That's not part of the training right now. So that's a gap. And then when the patients go into the clinics and say, I heard sugar really drive. No, it has nothing to do with that. What you asked the oncologist? Well, you certainly know about out-of-work. No, I never heard of them.
Wow.
So, I mean, how are you supposed to treat a person correctly when you have no training or knowledge of the very issues that are central to the success of your treatment?
Wow.
Now, that's not to say we know that if we do an upfront, if there's a watchful waiting period without some critical situation, we know that surgery can cure cancer. It has happened many, many, many times. So, but the problem is you want to make sure that when the surgeon does debulk or take out the tumor, that he's going to get it all so it doesn't recur. If you go into a tumor too aggressively at the beginning, you can spread that tumor around. This is like biopsies can do this as well. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough to kill people. There's a lot of evidence for this in the science, but no, I even sent out papers. Oh, no, this never happens. Then I sent him 20 papers. Oh, I wasn't aware of this. Well, you don't read the scientific literature like I do.
Right.
So, and you're not talking about it. And yet here's all these papers saying this can happen. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Just like the Johnson & Johnson morcellation procedure. They used a morcellation to remove uterine polyps. It's like kind of a grind-up system. They were killing people, spreading the cancer around the body.
Wow.
Finally, they had to stop using that. I mean, it was perfectly understandable because because the metastatic cancer it's part of our immune system. Another thing that the field is clueless about. Yet every major human cancer expresses characteristics of macrophages, which is a very powerful immune system in our body. The macrophages have fused with certain stem cells, cancer stem cells, and now become rogue macrophages, and they spread all around your body, driven heavily by glucose and glutamine. So we know how to kill cancer cells without toxicity just by knowing what the biology of their dependency on fuel is. That's not even discussed when you go to an oncologist. What do I have to eat to reduce my probability of having no, nothing. Take the Infamil, take the sugar. What are you, crazy? This is nuts. We published the first paper using linear regression analysis in mice showing that the higher the blood sugar in the mouse, the faster the brain tumor would grow,
Wow.
or even a flank tumor. The lower the sugar, the slower it would go. And we did linear regression showing it was the glucose that was the driver, using glucose as the independent variable and tumor growth as the dependent variable.
Wow.
We showed this. Now, then after that, numerous studies came out of the clinical human literature showing the same thing.
Mhm.
In breast cancer, colon cancer, brain cancer, the higher the blood sugar, the lower, the less the patient would survive, had the lowest survival rate, over and over and over again. And yet you go to oncology clinics, sugar has nothing to do with it. People don't read the scientific literature. So it's frustrating to me because I read all this stuff and they're peer-reviewed good articles. We've tested it we've double tested these things, found that yes, we confirm everything they're doing. They confirm our results, we confirm their results, and yet it's like it's not even considered in the clinics. So it's slowly coming around. I think the oncology community is slowly realizing this sure ain't good.
Yeah.
So keep your blood sugar as low as you possibly can. And they can't burn ketone bodies or fatty acids. People say, oh, yes, they can. No, they can't. We tested it all here. And the literature is full of papers showing they can't do that.
So just to clarify, you're saying there's not a cancer that could feed off of fatty acids and ketones. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, we can't
Not
find
one.
one. No. All the major, let's put it this way. The major cancers that are killing 98% of people cannot use fatty acids and ketone bodies.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying there's a cancer out there, but if it were, it would have normal mitochondrial function. Therefore, it would not be a cancer. So, because our normal cells, brain, heart, liver, all these, not liver can burn fatty acids, not ketones.
Yeah.
But all other cells can burn ketones and fatty
Isn't it
acids.
interesting? The liver, the only organ that produces ketones, doesn't use the ketones.
It produces large amounts of ketones, but burns fatty acids.
Yeah.
So because the Scott enzyme is different in the liver.
Yes.
So So you know that, and people, oh no, they can burn fatty. Well, you know what we found? We found that if you take a lot of fatty acids in, they say, oh, look at it, it's making the cancer grow fast. What the fatty acids do is they uncouple the mitochondria, forcing to use glucose and glutamine at higher. So it looks like it's not the fatty acids are fueling the fermentable fuels, but are not directly using fatty acids. In fact, they accumulate as lipid droplets in the cytoplasm. Just published a big paper on this. Just came out 2024. All major cancers have lipid droplets in the cytoplasm because they can't be used. So they store them in the cytoplasm. And what happens is if they try to use them, they form reactive oxygen species and die. So it's actually a protective mechanism to store the fatty acids. Because if, God forbid, if they start burning them, cancer cells will blow up. So they store them in the cytoplasm. And all major cancers, we've looked at all of them. They all have mitochondrial abnormalities and store lipid droplets in the cytoplasm. It tells us their mitochondria are defective. What are they using to stay alive? Why are they growing so fast? Glucose and glutamine, the amino acid glutamine. You take those two away and they collapse. And guess what? Not a single clinic anywhere in the world is simultaneously targeting the two metabolic fuels needed and transitioning the body over to ketones. Nobody. We got 1,700 people a day dying, and not a single clinic anywhere on the planet is doing what I just mentioned.
It's what
you know why they don't believe it. Why do they not believe it? Because cancer is a genetic disease. Haven't you heard?
It's the paradigm. It's the current paradigm.
Yeah.
It's a strong
Yeah.
paradigm, and you work.
Yeah. So you continually pump out kinase inhibitors, ALK gene mutation, all that kind of stuff. It's largely irrelevant. They're being driven by a fermentation metabolism. Mutations have little, if anything, to do with this whole process. They're downstream epiphenomenon of the damage from reactive oxygen species causing all this stuff. And you're focusing on downstream stuff. We got 1,700 people a day dying from this
Wow.
disease.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of money to be made on downstream stuff, isn't there?
Well, they should then patients should be told that.
Yes,
They
I
should
agree.
thank you. We're so appreciative of your sickness because it's driving our industry here. But they don't say that. If you go into Dana-Farber or these cancer clinics, it's unbelievably beautiful. It's you could eat off the floors. Everything is so clean. The bathrooms. You walk in, everybody's smiling, and everybody, and the next room they're poisoning and irradiating.
Right, exactly.
Doesn't make any sense,
It's
right?
well, I always see like somebody going through chemotherapy, the food that's given to them in the hospital is the same
Yeah,
processed food that we spoke about. Like, doesn't make any sense.
I know. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's
I mean, when people come to realize what we've been doing, this is in the future, right? We're 2024. Okay, let's do 2124. This is 100 years from
okay.
now. You and I will be dead, long gone, and they're going to look back and say, "Who are those crazy folks that did this to our members of our species? How could our brains be so
Oh my
stupid?"
God.
But this is what we're doing,
Yeah.
and this is our day. This is today.
Ah, that is so interesting. Okay, so the mitochondria, that's important. I'd love for you to share, maybe like a protocol, a 30-day protocol, just your favorite ways to enhance mitochondrial function. I'm not saying to prevent cancer, to starve cancer, but to support the mitochondria. What are your favorite methods to do that?
Well, I mean, what we did as we evolved, we were always in a state of nutritional ketosis,
Yeah.
mainly because we did not have donut shops and delicatessens on every
Or
corner.
food in
And
general.
food in
Yeah.
general. And what we did eat, we ate everything. That's why humans are omnivores.
Yeah.
Humans will eat, and we know anything that swims, crawls, walks, or flies on this planet or grows, we'll eat it. And that's how we evolved. So we were always in a state of nutritional ketosis. And my good late friend, Dr. Richard Veach from the NIH Metabolism Biochemistry branch, and George Cahill, the late George Cahill, who ran the Joslin Diabetes Center, we would sit, the three of us, for hours and hours and hours and talk about metabolism and ketones and all this. And Veach was Hans Krebs's last graduate student of the Krebs
That's
cycle.
amazing.
So Veach was a brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant. And Cahill, man, this guy knew so much about human physiology. These are the giants of the field. And we'd sit for hours and talk about this. And burning ketones makes your mitochondria super healthy. You actually get more when every breath we breathe, we generate energy. But there's a delta G prime ATP hydrolysis. How efficiently we produce ATP and hydrolyze it. And when you're burning ketones, you actually is a super fuel. You can get more energy from molecule of air breathed from burning ketones than you can with either glucose or fatty acids. So it's a really bioenergetic, energy efficient fuel. Bioenergetic enhances the health and vitality of your mitochondria, producing fewer reactive oxygen species, which is related to the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy disorder. We all die because of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. Basically, we run out of energy. We have disorder. Our bodies can no longer produce sufficient amounts of energy, and we die. Well, when you're burning ketones, you simply delay that process. You stay healthier for a longer period of time. Not to say that you're going to live forever. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're extending the possibility of how long we could live if we're in ketosis. Now, our ancestors were always in ketosis, but they had a short lifespan. I tell you, if they lived 45, 50, that's an old guy back then. But that's because they were dying from infections and injuries. They weren't dying from dementia, type 2 diabetes, and cancer.
True.
They weren't dying from the things that are killing us today. And I tell you, the obese people are the descendants of our ancestors who were able to live on minuscule amounts of food. They store energy to survive under the most extreme conditions. And now, when food is like available and everywhere, those same traits that allowed us to survive horrific conditions of environmental forcing now put us at risk for cancer, dementia, all these kinds of things. It's the environment. It's our environment and us not knowing how to deal with this new. Our technology has evolved so much faster than our biology. We are still Paleolithic man in a modern society, and we're paying the price for this. And don't forget, these poor cave guys, these Paleolithic guys. I mean, do you think they would be excited if someone were to make a jelly donut and throw it into the cave? They'd kill themselves for this thing. I mean,
Of course.
no, I'm going to stick with the raw squirrel. Thank you. Are you kidding
Yum.
me? You gave me a nice hot pizza, and oh, you want to chew on this that rump of this buffalo, you're going to have a nice pizza. Of course, we evolved to want that, and now we have so much of it; it's killing us.
Right. Yeah, we have essentially a keto deficiency nowadays.
Yes, yeah, because we're not exercising and we're eating highly processed carbohydrates, and we're putting ourselves in stress. Stress elevates glucocorticoids, which raise blood sugar.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to manage all of this if you really want to get into a healthy zone, and it's hard in our lifestyle today. I mean, it's amazing when you watch television. Now the young people are all into the computers or this whatever they look at, but you look at television at night. The old people, right, comes on with all the drugs for obesity, cancer, and all this kind of stuff, and then the football games come on. It's all the pizzas and Coca-Cola
Yes.
and all the
Yeah.
stuff you want that's going to kill you, right? So you watch the.
Constant
You
brainwashing.
got to love the advertising. They know who's out
They
there,
do.
right?
Yeah. 75% of TV commercials, at least in 2020, 75% of TV commercials in the United States were funded by big pharma. 75%. It's hot. It's
Yeah.
probably higher
Well,
now.
but that's okay. They're interested in making a buck, just like everybody else is. But it is kind of, I tell you, when you do water only fasting, if you're sitting there reading a book and a commercial comes on for pizza or Coca-Cola or a donut or a burger or one of these things, and you're full, you're sitting there reading the book, you don't sometimes look up to even watch it. But I tell you, when you haven't eaten anything for 3 days and that commercial comes on, you are focused on that TV like you can't believe. You start to tremble while you watch the commercial. That goes to show you the power of what's going on.
That is a good point. That is true. So you mentioned nutritional ketosis. That would be one of the steps here. It's more efficient than fatty acids and glucose for the mitochondria.
Well, but the fatty acids are mobilized out of the adipose cells. They go into the bloodstream. They go to the liver, and they're chopped up to water soluble ketone bodies, and they can subserve your brain and organs, and you get healthier. You get more efficient that way. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Give me a break. Wait, oh yes, I want to run out and do it. Yeah, let's see how long you can do it. So what we do for the cancer patients, not me, I'm not a doctor, a physician, I can't tell them what to do or what not to do, but we transition them away from carbohydrates for about 10 or 14 days, depending, and we use the glucose ketone index calculator that we developed here at Boston College. I made it for the glioblastoma patients, but then other cancer patients are using it. And now even young guys that want to be healthy, they want to be in the Paleolithic zone. They want to be like Paleolithic man.
Yeah.
They can use it to stay in that healthy zone, and they can compare their GKI and say, we said 2.0 or below for cancer management, because most people are in 50 or 60s. So, and you can test it on yourself, which is interesting because we've done it here in the lab a couple of times. People don't eat for 3 or 4 days to get a beautiful GKI.
Yeah.
And then they eat certain foods, and you can see what you drink a Coca-Cola, man. It's like those things where you go to the carnival and you hit the thing and the thing goes up and rings the bell. I mean,
blood sugar.
Oh man, you knocked the bell right off the top of the stand.
Yeah.
Or if you eat a fat laden kind of food like an avocado or something like this, you get very little change.
Stable.
It's almost even dark red wine it doesn't bump it up too much. But anything that would have significant carbs immediately shoots up the ketones go down and the glucose goes up. So Paleolithic station is where glucose and ketones are a relative unity in the blood. The ketone and the glucose are now unity. Whereas mostly it's high glucose, very low ketones. But tumor cells thrive on the glucose and they can't burn the ketones. So you're putting them at a competitive risk. The rest of your cells in the body, all of a sudden, upregulate transporters to get as much glucose out. Therefore, the poor tumor cell is getting starved indirectly because your normal cells. The brain will take what little glucose is being produced by the liver. The brain gets first dibs. Muscles get
the greediest organ is that brain, huh?
Yeah. Yes. And not only that, and muscles muscle does not share glucose.
Mm,
And that's evolutionarily conserved because you need to run away from the bear that's chasing
yeah.
you. But muscles say, "Oh, let's have the liver. Let's give all the
Like,
share." The
no,
bear comes and you're dead
yeah.
meat, right? Oh, I gave all my energy away to my kidneys.
Those damn kidneys
Oh,
screwed
I'm
me
being
again.
fine, but I have no money. So once the glycogen builds up in your muscles, that's for the muscles to get contract. So if you continue to exercise, the tumor is the last one on the totem to get the available glucose, and it needs it to stay alive, and it starts dying. So you can completely marginalize these tumors, and then you come in with the glutamine targeting, which is the other fuel that they use, and you can shut these guys down while the body is in nutritional ketosis, fatty acids and ketones that the tumor cells can't use, and the normal cells are gobbling all that up
Magic.
and taking what little glucose they can get. This poor tumor that's absolutely dependent on it is getting hammered. You got to feel bad for the tumor under metabolic conditions.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
don't know
getting
if I
hammered.
feel bad
It's
for
getting
them,
hammered.
but yeah.
Well, there's guys out there who actually would feel bad for the tumor.
Really?
Oh, I mean, you can look at the way people look at things. Sometimes they just look at things in a very different
Huh.
way than everybody else.
Interesting. I never even thought about that before. What role is autophagy playing here with ketosis and fasting?
The what role is what?
Autophagy playing here.
Yeah. Well, autophagy during water only fasting, autophagy is an internal surveillance to improve the energetic efficiency inside cells. So mitochondria are usually what is parts of the mitochondrial spaghetti network that we have in the cell. Bits and pieces of mitochondria will break off. They will enter into what we call endosomes, and then the endosomes go into the lysosome, and the bits and pieces are chopped up and redistributed within the cell. So what remains then is a highly energy efficient mitochondrial network. So autophagy happens when people do water only fasting and things like this. But we also, in my book, I have also written about autolytic cannibalism, which is like external to internal autophagy. Autophagy is internal to the cell. Autolytic cannibalism is where the body is then placed under tremendous energy restriction. As I said, there's a whole body surveillance, not only internal autophagy inside the cell, internal surveillance, but now every cell in our body must justify its existence
Mm,
and must be at the maximal energy efficiency. Otherwise, it's going to be eliminated.
yeah.
We eliminate the weak, we keep the strong. The tumor is there, gobbling up energy resources, wasting. So the body will attack the tumor from the outside. It's called autolytic cannibalism because there's a nice lump of food. Those cells are not carrying their weight. They're inefficient. They're fermenting rather than respiring. They're inefficient. So our immune system will go in and dissolve and kill the tumor cells and redistribute the fuel to the rest of our body. It's called autolytic cannibalism. It's autophagy outside the cell.
So cool. It's
unbelievable.
it's amazing. And all you have to do is just
But
fast pretty much, and all that will happen for you.
it's a hell of a lot easier said than
Yeah.
done.
Well, I mean, I've done 5 days before several times. I do a 5-day water fast. What's your longest fast that you've done?
Oh, I mean, personally, I've done 3 days.
3 days. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it's for cancer
it
patients
was
we're
long
talking
enough.
about here.
My friends were building ketogenic muffins, right? And we have lab meeting, and they have these. They bring. They want us to try from some company, somebody. I'm making some ketogenic food. So at the lab meeting, we'll eat the muffin, right? It tastes like cardboard. It's all crumbly and everything. It's horrible. You say, Jesus, that's it. No more of this keto muffin. But I tell you, when I had that 3-day fast, and I had the chance to eat on the third day, I had this ketogenic muffin. I'm telling you, it was the best damn muffin I ever ate in my life. I was trembling while I ate that. I was getting crumbs all over the place. I couldn't get it into my mouth fast enough.
You were hungry.
Oh, I'm telling you, all of a sudden that muffin that tasted terrible became the best thing you ever ate. So when you're hungry, man, I'll tell you, that's another thing too. People have all these ailments. Oh, this hurts, that hurts, and don't eat for like several days. You don't think about anything that hurts anymore. Next thing, all you're thinking about is your next.
That's a
big meal.
good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
All of a sudden, you become focused on the really important issue.
Yeah.
Where's my next big meal?
Yeah, it's funny when I first did my first 5-day water fast. I think it was 2018. I did it with Dr. Pompa and a group of the doctors that we work
Yeah.
with. We were just doing it as a team. And day 2 was probably the most difficult one with the hunger.
Yeah.
I noticed that I had a
Yeah.
lot of hunger, but once I reached day 3 and I was tracking my glucose and ketones, and I achieved, I achieved the sweet spot of the
Yeah.
GKI on day 3. I got there, but I stayed there for
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of days, showing good metabolic flexibility. But one of the things I noticed was that I was very introverted during the fast. My girlfriend, my fiance now, girlfriend at the time, was asking me, "Why are you so quiet? Why aren't you talking to me?" And I was just like in my thoughts. I was really creative. My sleep wasn't
Oh,
that
yeah.
great too, but it was a really interesting experience for me.
No. Well, it usually wipes the smile right off your face. You know?
Because food brings so much pleasure, right?
Yeah. Oh, hey, man, I haven't had anything for 3 days. I'm so happy. You know, it's like no, no. It's a tough thing to do. And, people we're doing it because, we wanna try it. Our Paleolithic ancestors weren't doing that because they wanted to.
Right,
They had
right,
to.
yeah.
They didn't have the food. And just think about how hard it would be to track down a woolly mammoth and kill it, or a big buffalo or some other herbivore. You had to track that thing. And the energy that would go into doing that, because we didn't have domesticated, weren't at that point in our existence, we weren't domesticating, we had no grains or source of food. We were hunter gatherers for tens of thousands of years. So our physiology is in that. A lot of energy used. We would gorge ourselves with the amount of food that we could get at the time. And there's a very interesting paper that came out of Israel, Tel Aviv, about 2 or 3 months ago, where humans were responsible for the extinction of large numbers of big animals on the planet. It turns out that our ancestors would kill the top strongest members of the herd, because the marrow in the bone was best and the strongest. So they wouldn't kill the young, and they wouldn't kill the old. They would go for the strongest members of the herd.
Wow.
Now, when you do that, you leave the young and the old vulnerable to predators.
Mhm.
So the next thing you know, the species is wiped out
Wow.
because of your desire to eat the strong ones. So we're in with our ancestors were so clever in how they killed and ate animals, and they would fish. They would catch the fish. Imagine surviving on ice floes, killing seals and stuff like this. I mean, think about and then we're doing that's hard work doing all that stuff. Then I visited the Inuit population, or the medical school that services the Inuits in Thunder Bay, Canada, which is their medical school there, and they service the Inuits. I guess that they don't like the term Eskimo. I guess that's a bad term now. You can't use it. But the Inuit, as they call, they're just people who live in the Arctic
Yeah.
Circle. Now they're suffering from type 2 diabetes, massively cancer, all of the chronic diseases, because they don't no longer have to run across ice floes to kill a seal, or go out into a freezing cold kayak or boomiak, go out and kill some animal. And they get us all delivered now to them,
Yeah.
and they're massively unhealthy. But that's happened to our Native American populations as well. So clearly, you can go back in the year 2000, 1900, the Pueblo Indians, some of these Native American tribes, they were thin, jacked people, and now they're like suffering massively from type 2 diabetes, and in such a short few generations, just a couple of generations, you go from super health to super unwellness. So sure, it's all diet and lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's clear. And once you realize that, then you know how to manage these diseases and prevent them. I would say prevention. It's like the guy who smokes. I'm not going to get lung cancer.
Right.
I'll deal with it when I get it. Right, But the other thing nice about metabolic therapy, yes, if you have cancer, you can use it to manage it, and you can use a very similar approach to prevent it. This differs dramatically from standards of care for cancer today. I don't see a line in Dana-Farber of a whole bunch of young people lining up to get irradiated and poisoned so that they won't get cancer in the
Right.
future. No, right?
Good point.
It doesn't make sense, right? But they'll do that to you after you get cancer. This is
Yeah.
what we're going to do to you: poison and irradiate you. And I'm saying, wow. But with metabolic therapy, you can use the same strategy to both prevent and treat. So it's really interesting. But it's going to take knowledge. People have to come to know this, and it's going to take time for them to come. And they're going to want to know. So the change is going to come from people. It's not going to come from the top
Yeah.
places.
That's why conversations like this are incredible. It's so important to share
Well,
messages like
I feel bad. I want to apologize to all your listeners because they hear me say all this stuff, and then they run down there to these places and get slapped down. They feel so bad. What is Seyfried saying? Oh my God, he told me how to manage, and I went to talk to the head guy, and he says there's no evidence to support this.
Well, at least you're warning
So
them that's going to happen, right? Be aware. That's probably
yeah,
going to
that's
happen.
definitely more than likely. That's what's going to
Yeah,
happen because these guys feel that they know what they're doing.
correct.
But again, we've got in the conversation that we're having now, 70 people are dying somewhere in the hospitals or at home from cancer,
Yeah.
right? So clearly something's not right here.
Yeah. The thing you mentioned earlier is I want to just expand upon that. How technology has advanced faster than human physiology. We are hardwired the way that our ancestors lived for such a long time. And when we fast forward to the convenience of Uber Eats and DoorDash and all the things we have available, uh, our metabolism, like when we go in a fasted state, even though we know consciously we could walk to the refrigerator, open it up, and get food, even though we could hit a button on our phone and have somebody knock on our door with food in 30 minutes, we're still hardwired for the old school. So even though we understand this consciously, when we go into this fasting state, we're still hardwired the old way, where all these amazing things happen, even with the conscious awareness that there's food out there. So I think that's super cool that our body automatically goes into that healing process, even though there's food available to us.
Well, that's the control, but we know that it can get out of control sometimes when some people have anorexia nervosa.
Yes.
Is the conscious intonation because the brain. So the animals that are hardwired do not have a conscious thought. So what they do, the animals are hardwired. They're not going to be anorectic or any of these kinds of things like humans, because millions of years of hardwiring told us we have to eat. We were driven to eat, but yet with self consciousness, you can override millions of years of hard wiring, and that can be very disastrous for some people. Will even die because they have this wrong image of themselves. They've challenged their biochemistry. They've used conscious willpower to override millions of years of evolutionary hard wiring in our brain. The animals, non-human animals, don't generally have to deal with that. But you're right. Exactly what you said. We have a conscious awareness that we know the food is there, but yet we're not. Now, our ancestors didn't have that because the food was not there, so they had to track it down and use a lot of energy to eat that and get that food. So, and there were no highly processed carbohydrates in the most of our existence as a species on this planet.
Or
There was
seed
no
oil,
highly processed
or seed oils too.
or seed oils. Yeah, I don't know if there were there. We'd eat anything we could find, but none of it was cultivated or processed or any of this kind of thing. So, I'm sure our ancestors would pig out on ripe berries during seasonal opportunities. The bears do that. I mean, but in general, everything was kind of seasonal.
Yeah.
It wasn't available all the time. And you build festivals, and you build things around the availability of these things. When food was plentiful, you could have a festival of some sort, Yuletide or whatever they want to call it. But the idea is they built these. Our culture builds around these opportunities to have a lot of food, and we still do. Except today we have massive amounts that our ancestors never had access to.
If you're following a low carbohydrate keto diet or carnivore diet, this is one of the most important tips. I see a lot of people who struggle with keto and carnivore, and the reason they struggle is because they are losing too many electrolytes. They're becoming mineral depleted. Every cell in your body needs minerals to function, to produce energy, which helps you burn fat and feel good. My favorite minerals and electrolytes are from Beam Minerals. These are fulvic and humic compounds that are bioavailable, that have over 70 minerals in them. It tastes like water. They're carnivore friendly. Let me explain why. There are no anti-nutrients in them. It does not break a fast. As a matter of fact, it could support your fasting window, and it's been a game changer for my health, and I recommend it to all my students. Head over to beamminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi at checkout, my last name, Azadi at checkout, to get a nice discount. Beamminerals.com, coupon code is Azadi.
And with this, we're talking about the mitochondria. We spoke about ketosis lowering blood sugar levels, practicing fasting. Are there any other routines and habits that you would recommend to prevent chronic disease, prevent cancer? What are some of your favorite ways to enhance the mitochondria for prevention outside
Well,
of
I think doing the opposite of what I said in the beginning.
so okay, so
Get-
let's talk about that. So moving your body, getting steps, being
yeah,
physically
yeah,
active. That's amazing for the
yeah. Like
mitochondria.
I always tell my students, always take the stairs, not the
Yeah.
elevator. We have an elevator that we have a big stairway here at the university, and you'll find more students crammed into the elevator than want to walk up the
I believe
stairs.
that.
Right? Oh, they'll do it when you. They say, oh well, when I get old like you, maybe we'll do some of that. I say you're going to be obese with type 2 diabetes. You won't be doing it at
Right,
all.
exactly.
So, but a lot of the young people there, they seem to start to understand this. But yeah, but a lot of them are under stress. That's a new thing in our society. I think it's coming from all this TikToks and
Yeah, social
YouTubes and
media.
whatever the
Social
hell else
media is
they
a
look at,
huge
all this stuff on the
stressor.
phone.
Yeah.
They get all freaked out when they read something. Yeah. So what else? Poor sleep. We're in a lot of stress. We understand things. We're not just walking through life. We understand there's a lot of things that freak us out. These stressful things. And sometimes you run to comfort food, which is highly processed, to remove. And a lot of folks that are living paycheck to paycheck can't afford some of the foods that
Right.
would make them healthy. And they're food deserts. And I mean, we're causing a lot of our own problems, essentially. So, and it's like escalating.
Are you passionate about the groundbreaking and heroic research of Dr. Thomas Seyfried on metabolic therapy and cancer? So are we. That's why we've created something special for you, in collaboration with Johnny Rockermeyer, a German book publisher and translator. Introducing our collection of meticulously crafted books that distill the essence of Dr. Seyfried's work. Dive into the science and discoveries. These summary books are your gateway to understanding the intricate world of metabolic ketogenic therapy in a clear, concise, and engaging way. Whether you're new to the subject or a seasoned enthusiast, our books offer insights that can change your life. Ready to explore this transformative knowledge? Visit our website at www.cancerasametabolicdisease.com to get your copy. You can buy the ebook there directly and the paper book via the provided links. Here's the best part. A portion of every purchase goes directly to support Dr. Thomas Seyfried's groundbreaking research. That's why the direct ebook purchase is the best option to donate as much as possible. You can see all of the donations Mr. Rockermeyer has already made at www.ketoforcancer.net. That's right, when you buy our books, you're not just investing in your own knowledge, you're also contributing to the future of cancer research. Help us make a difference. Together, we can drive change and save lives.
And a lot of the folks that are lower economic status suffering also from cancer brutally, which is kind of an immoral thing. This should not have to happen. And the other thing that we realize is that people always look at the adverse effects of physical adverse effects of the treatments for cancer, but we published a big paper on financial toxicity, the cost of taking these poisonous chemicals and radiation and surgical cutting, the charges to the poor people, even if you have a copay or whatever. I mean, you get hit with a $20,000 bill, and you're working paycheck to paycheck. We found marriages fall apart, people commit suicide, and it's past. This is immoral behavior. This is all immoral. People, they should care about this. See, one of the things that at Boston College, this is a Jesuit university, the philosophy of service to others is primary here. You have to think of what you're doing and how it could help somebody, not trying to exploit them. I'm not saying nobody should make a dollar. Listen, we all need to make money from how we live. But man, what we're doing to some of these folks with cancer is just absolutely immoral. And it has to change because we just can't live as a society doing this. And it's a world epidemic now. It's not just the United States. You're seeing cancer out of control in a lot of countries. As soon as that Western diet and lifestyle comes into the program, you're going to have to be aware that as tasty and great as this is, it can turn on you and kill you in many different ways.
Yeah. Can you share the role of insulin and what insulin does to create growth in the body? I know glucose and insulin, they go hand in hand, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the relationship with insulin and growth.
Well, insulin is a very powerful hormone. We need it to, push sugar into the cells. And if we don't burn the sugar right away, we store it in adipose tissues. But, we measured insulin in animals that we put them on different diets and let them eat as much as they can. And then we calorie restrict it to get them all at the baseline. And you can see what happens to insulin. Even when you eat a ketogenic diet in high concentrations, people say, oh, fat diet. Yeah, we found insulin insensitivity in ketogenic diets that were given ad libitum, which means the animal got fat eating fat. That's not usually what happens because most people, we have a hormone called cholecystokinin, which is an appetite suppressant. So when humans, now this was when humans eat a lot of fat, we lose our appetite. The problem here with insulin is that we have high fat, high carb diets.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing.
Yeah.
So the body, interestingly enough, doesn't excrete glucose. We have a kidney that really refilters glucose back into our body. Only when you have diabetes and things like this do you start excreting glucose in the urine. But fat, if you don't burn fat right away, you can excrete it. We actually looked at the fecal pellets of the mouse, and we fed the ketogenic diet and did a full lipid analysis of what they're eating. So we did all the biochemistry of the lipids. And then we took the fecal pellets from these guys and we ran them next to it. It looks like one end go in one end, out the other.
That's cool.
It was very interesting. So they're not, but that's why we give ketogenic diets in restricted amounts, because you want the fat that's taken into the body to be burned and utilized. Yes. You don't want it to cause insulin. But if you take so much of it, it's like anything. You take too much of it, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
So we did fish oil diets, we did ketogenic diets, we did high carb diets, and when you bring it down to calorie restricted, all the diets became very similar with respect to their blood. We published this paper in Nutrition and Metabolism, so people can go and look at it. Fish oil diet, ketogenic diets, high carb diets, and then we get them ad libitum and calorie restricted. And boy, at calorie restriction, just everything became plainer across the diets. So it was very, very interesting. So, and that's why for cancer, when the patients are given food, it's a very low, exceedingly low carbohydrate diet. Mm-hmm. So we're not starving these people. They're just eating a very low carbohydrate, small amounts of low carbohydrate, and then jump into water fasting. So if you eat a high carb diet, fat and carbs, and on one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to go water only fast the next day," it's like jumping off the side of a building, right? But if you walk down the steps and then jump off the last step, it ain't so bad.
Yeah, good analogy.
Yeah. So what we do is allow the body over a 10 to 14 to 20 day period to get into a new state of existence, and then say, when I jump to water only fasting, wow, it's not much different than what I was doing already. So it's and then you get your low GKI, and then the blood work starts to really clear up. All of these things that were out of whack, the triglycerides, the cholesterols, and all these different lipids. Oh my God, this guy's getting back into a healthy zone. The cancer cells are getting hammered. And then you come in with the glutamine targeting drugs that we're working on right now. And so we're taking the human body and we're just bringing it back to where it should have been. And then we go in and we start battling with the glutamine thing. So those poor tumor cells, sometimes you feel bad for them. They're getting hammered so bad, trying to survive. And the normal cells of the body, you're not so happy, but the normal cells of your body are really doing well burning the ketones. Your heart's getting better. You're actually getting more power for each heart pump.
Yeah.
Your brain is getting more acute to look at things. You're getting more focused. Everything in your body is getting super healthy except the tumor.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible. And the cells in the body that are the most metabolically demanding, that are most required for survival, the brain, the eyes, the heart, like you mentioned, those are the cells that have the highest concentration of mitochondria as well.
And that's also interesting because neurons of the brain and cardiac myocytes rarely ever get cancer.
Right.
Because as Otto Warburg said, and as we say, there's two steps to getting cancer. One is the chronic disruption of mitochondrial function, and number two is an upregulation of fermentation, energy from fermentation, which is called substrate level phosphorylation, as opposed to oxidative phosphorylation.
Yeah.
So you have to have a two-step process: chronic disruption of oxidative phosphorylation, coupled with a protracted upregulation of a fermentation, which leads to dysregulated cell growth. Neurons and cardiac myocytes can't sustain fermentation metabolism for very long, so they die. And as Warburg said, you can never get a cancer cell from a dead cell.
Mm.
So that's why you rarely, if ever, see tumors in cardiac myocytes or in neurons of the brain.
Right.
You see them in glial cells of the brain and sheaths around muscles, but you don't usually find them in the cardiac, sometimes skeletal muscle as well. So clearly, you have to know the biology of your body, what they evolved to do, how they did it, what their fuels are, and what their physiological functions are, to know how to manipulate your whole physiological system against a group of cells that are not playing by the rules any longer. We, in our research here, we get really excited when we see animals that have these. We call them graveyard. My guy said if we didn't do anything, they'd be dead in a couple of days. How we can actually restore these guys back to almost normalcy, running around. Yeah.
Wow.
So I said humans actually do a hell of a lot better than these poor mice. They only have a 2-year lifespan anyway. But humans, when they do metabolic therapy, everything happens much more slowly, so you can intervene all along the way. This poor mouse, man, you got to hit him right away, otherwise his physiology. Don't forget, people. You have to realize the basal metabolic rate of a mouse and a human is usually different.
Right.
What's your heart rate? It's about what? 60? What is it? 60, 50, 60?
My resting heart rate's around like 44.
45. That's
Yeah.
good. Low. Okay. You know what? Okay. 44. You're a healthy guy.
Yeah.
40 is very good.
Thank you.
You must be very athletic.
Yes.
So what's the resting heartbeat of a mouse?
115.
How about 650?
Oh my gosh. A lot faster.
Yeah. Your head would blow off your body.
Seriously.
Yeah, right. So think about this. You got to know the physiology of the systems you're working on to make an appropriate translational move to the clinic. So we're so excited when humans do this do the metabolic therapy, because we can intervene in so many different ways and push the patient in one direction or not, depending how they're doing, not worrying about whether they're going to be dead in 2 days like the mouse.
Right.
We translate. That's why you have to really understand biology, chemistry, and evolutionary biology to really make these translational changes to the human. And boy, I'll tell you, once we start doing this in an industrial size metabolic therapy, we're going to set up clinics all around the world, and people will come in. And they come in, I got this, I'm obese, I got diabetes, I got pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, something like that. And then all of a sudden we work on this whole metabolic therapy, and you come out on the other end, you're no longer obese, you don't have any hypertension, no high blood pressure, that stuff. And besides, what happened to my cancer, So, but it's not going to be easy, because a lot of the success rests on the shoulder of the patient.
Yeah.
They have to be the ones that are motivated to do this. And if they're not motivated, it's like anything. You're not going to get the outcome that you might predicted.
Yeah. Do you really plan on setting up clinics like that?
Oh yeah, that's the future.
That's amazing.
That's the future.
Yeah.
It's got to be, unless people want to continue to be irradiated and poisoned.
No.
Now, the other thing, because we'll never tell anybody not to have that.
Right.
If that's what they really want and feel important, that they would go down there and have. But we're not throwing out radiation and chemo. As a matter of fact, when the patient is in nutritional ketosis, those kinds of parts of the standard of care can actually be very, very therapeutic. But you're using much, much lower dosages of these things.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have your hair fall. Every time I see a bald-headed cancer patient, I think that poor person was treated by somebody who has no clue what the nature of the disease is. You're trying to kill cancer cells. They're not hiding in your hair follicles. Why are your hair falling out? You're trying to kill a tumor cell. Why your gums are bleeding? Your microbiome is blown to hell. Everybody, the microbiome is so important. Unless you're a cancer patient, they don't seem to care about it. So metabolic therapy preserves your hair, your gums, your microbiome. you're just targeting the tumor cells and getting rid of them, and you're making the rest of the body healthy. The problem is what I'm saying is not common knowledge.
Right.
They're not in the trenches like we are. They're not looking at what Otto Warburg did like we did. We actually followed exactly why he made his mistakes, why he was thrown under the bus when everybody ran off chasing genes. What were his kernels of knowledge that he had that he could share with us? So we took what he knew and we improved it, and we showed where Warburg himself and others have made very similar kinds of mistakes, thinking that oxygen consumption is always linked to oxidative phosphorylation. In a tumor cell, it's not. And people need to know that. So the quantification that Warburg did based on his Germanic training was not correct. So we had to clear up a lot of that mess. So and now the science is solid. So if people want to challenge it, let them do the same experiments and see if they get something different. So, but I don't think they will if they do it the right way.
Yeah, well said. No, your research has been incredible. You've really taken his Otto Warburg's work and extended it and helping to reach more people. Your book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, I admit when I read it a few years ago, it was a very difficult read for me. And I had to read it a few times and I started to get it. Really incredible book that you have out there. Do you plan on writing a new book?
Well, they've been asking me because right now it's selling more, like more than it's ever sold.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm shocked myself. But I want to emphasize that I only wrote one book, and all these others that are coming around with my name on it as if I wrote it is not true.
Is that happening, huh?
Yeah. We have pirates out there taking our stuff.
Jeez.
Not that they're putting wrong information out there, but like the Charity Channel and all these things. Our research is driven by philanthropy and private foundations. Okay, we get money from people who want to participate in the paradigm change. To say, we help this whole shift, and we just feel good about that. Some people say I don't need to know that my investment is going to bring me back a greater return on my investment. We just want to know that we're participating in something massively important for the health. And what I do, like when they make a nice gift to us, in the next paper I write in the acknowledgement section, you'll see the name of that person. So when you read our papers, open access, anybody can read them, because I can't say everything in just a conversation.
Yeah.
You got to look at the data and read the words that we wrote. You see the names. Who the hell are all these people? Like this guy here, this name of this guy. Those are the guys that have supported our research.
That's cool. That's great that you do that.
So if you want to feel good and you get your name on a scientific publication in the acknowledgments, so you say, man, God, look at all these different names that he's got in here. And then we have a few foundations, of course. And don't forget, and the NIH supported our research years ago when I was doing things that had no real clinical practical application, pure basic science. They would support that. But as soon as you start stepping out of the trough
That's it.
into the big world, oof, you got to be real careful when you say cancer is not a genetic disease. You're not going to last long.
Yeah, I'm sure you've taken some heat for that.
Well, they can say what they want to say. I rest my case on the science. I'm not. The opinions that I have are all based on the experiments that I did next door, repeated over and over again. Right. So you'll hear people say, "Oh, his work hasn't been repeated." Are you kidding me? Why don't you read the damn articles? How many times I repeated those things? And all the other people that did the work, the nuclear transfer experiments, what they did 70 times, and each one of these kinds of tumors got the same results. Give me a break. This has all been repeated over and over again. And well, if it's important, I would have heard about it. Well, maybe not. Apparently not.
Apparently not. Where can my audience go to find your research, maybe donate and contribute to the cause?
Yeah, well, I think we get direct in my biology webpage at Boston College in the biology department. There's a donation button, and the university. I cannot accept money if someone gives me a check, like I got a check for $10,000 one time. Can you believe this? So I mailed it to Travis Christofferson's foundation for metabolic cancer therapies, and Travis Christofferson's foundation supports us. So I give the money. If I get money, I give it to the to Travis's foundation because we have a grant set up from his foundation to Boston College.
Got it.
So it's the university who gives the money to me, never me directly getting money from anybody. And that's another thing. It comes through legitimate channels from the university itself. So they can either donate to me through my biology webpage or through Travis Christofferson's. And we do write grants to private foundations. We got a very significant amount of money from the United Kingdom Childhood Cancer Program.
Wow, that's great.
And we got one of the few grants from an American getting a grant from the British. But we developed now a therapy for childhood high-grade gliomas that we're getting ready to put out in a big way,
Wow.
which is another tragic situation.
Yeah.
But we developed a pediatric high-grade glioma experimental system using mice that have high-grade gliomas. And we put them in the brains of very young mice and got the same kind of phenotype that you see in children with high-grade gliomas, spinal cord involvement, which kills a lot of little kids. And we were able to use our diet drug cocktail, metabolic therapy, to really get tremendous extension of survival of these mice. So clearly, this is going to have a major impact in the clinic. But the problem is they don't do that. It's not part of the standard of care. Standard of care says surgical debulking, radiation, and chemo. It's not metabolic therapy. So even when you have this that could save the lives of these little kids, it's not being used, which is a tragedy. But we're going to continue to do it because it's going to work and kids are going to survive and live longer with a higher quality of life.
Right on. Oh, right on. So good. We're going to put everything that you mentioned, those resources in the notes down below for anybody watching and listening. The last thing I want to ask you here, Professor Seyfried, I always end my conversations with gratitude. I call it vitamin G, my favorite vitamin in the world, vitamin gratitude. The state of gratefulness, what it does to lower your cortisol levels, increase dopamine, oxytocin, just helps you feel good. I want to ask you, what do you have vitamin G gratitude for today, Professor Seyfried?
Well, today, I'm speaking to you, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
All right. So, I enjoy what I do. I teach the students, and I have two big classes: cancer general biology to 100 students, and then we have the metabolic cancer as a metabolic disease. So kids are getting all fired up about it. They want to hear more about it. There's a lot of people emailing me, young people from different universities. They want to know more. They want to get involved in the movement. It's a movement. It's a knowledge movement. It's a health movement, basically. So because these young people know, they're worried about climate change. They see the obesity epidemic. They see people getting sick, and they don't want to be part of that. So they want to make the change. The young people have to jump on board here.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us, we're going to be dissipated here after a while. But anyway, yeah, and they want to stay as healthy as they possibly can for a variety of reasons. But you're right about the gratitude. And that's one of the things that happiness and enjoyment of life will reduce stress, and we all have our ways to reduce stress. I like to go out fishing on the lake when I don't listen to any cell phones. I don't have earplugs. Yeah. I don't do any of that.
Disconnected.
I just like to be back in nature and listen to the birds and all the animals and everything that's out there. Yeah. So it brings you back, and it's very soothing, actually. You're out there in a whole lake all by yourself, and it's just quite. And then you come back in the lab and you kill tumors.
What a contrast!
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun doing that as well.
Yes. Your work is incredible. I've learned so much from you over the years. It's been an honor. I'm so glad we finally made this happen, as I mentioned to you earlier.
Well, I know parts of my book can be challenging, as you said, but you have to write to the scientists as well, because the scientists. A lot of that information in the book was coming from the research that we did here next door in my lab. So we did the controlled experiments. We did all that. And I understand some parts of it are over the head of people, but there are chapters in the book that anybody can read.
Yeah.
So it's it's a hodgepodge of things. I did the best I could in ordering this in the way I thought it should have been ordered. But it was the first shot. It's the only major book written on cancer as a metabolic disease. It's I don't know, maybe others are trying to do it, but I'm still battling with the cancer field itself, thinking that cancer cells use fatty acids for energy, that oxygen consumption is linked to oxidative phosphorylation. This is not correct completely. So we still have a lot of convincing to do of people that call themselves metabolic gurus of cancer.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, they're so yoked at the neck because they know if they say cancer is not a genetic disease, that noose becomes a lot tighter.
Right. There's
So they
arrows.
have to walk this fine line. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not worried about losing a multi-million dollar grant from the National Cancer Institute. I don't have a multi-million dollar grant
Right.
from the National. You can't lose something you don't
Yeah.
have. The only thing I have is scientific truth. That's the only thing I have.
Respect.
And so we'll keep pushing ahead, and hopefully the change will come for those poor souls that are dying from this disease.